Well, good morning, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Brad here. I hope you're having a blessed morning wherever you are. It is a lovely, breezy, starting to get cold. Winter is on the way. Central Wisconsin morning, but things are good. Scripture at the ready. Friends online. Coffee still warm. Life is good. I hope you're having a blessed morning. We are going to be in reading the ESV version of the Bible, Matthew chapter 25, and we're going to get started here in a second. But before we do, let's see who is here this morning. Who was here first? Aha! Stars in the Forest is here first. Good morning to you. Good morning, Alicia. Good morning, Lisa Park. Good morning to Joy, Phoebe, Scott, Delaney B. Good morning to Kathy O. Good morning to Delaney B. Let's see, Pope Family Farm. Good morning to you. Good morning to Scott and Steve Gunnick. Good morning to you. And scrolling, Adele, good morning. And let's see, who else might be here? Sally H. Good morning. Oh, good. T. Pearson. Good morning too. It's scrolling and clicking. It's kind of hard to track it, but we got this. Looks like you guys were having a conversation. Good morning to Hannah's Backyard Farm. Good morning to you. And Southern Prairie Homestead, Bulletproof Pastor. Good morning. And Krista, Monica, and everybody else. I if I've missed your name, I promise you it was not intentional. Good morning to you all. Clink. Let's get to it. Before I forget, I saw Phoebe you've been saying you've been dealing with stomach acid. Sometimes I've had that happen. One thing that does work for me, might work for you, maybe not, is that aloe vera juice. So there you go. Now, let's get to the important good stuff. Matthew chapter 25. We're going to read a couple parables, and we're going to unpack them. So on your mark, get set, here we go. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 of them were wise. For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, they became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a cry, "Here is the bridegroom, come out to meet him." Then all those virgins rose and trimmed their lamps, and the foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise answered, saying, "Since there will not be enough for both," I was going into paraphrase mode. Let's not do that just yet. "Since there will not be enough for us and for you, go rather into the dealers and buy for yourselves." And while they were going to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. Afterward, the other virgins came also, saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he answered, "Truly I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour." Verse 14. "For it will be like a man who's going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them and made 5 talents more. So he also, who had the 2 talents, made 2 more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also, who had 2 talents, came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here, I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, have what is yours. But the master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I scattered no seed? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have in an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Holy mackerel. Not a good place to be, you think? Okay. Let's get to it. All right. First things first. The parable of the virgins. This was always a little bit confusing to me as to why it was such a big deal that the bridegroom, the party, the wedding feast, why they didn't just let him in. Well, here's the way that this gets picked apart, and we're going to get to that. But first, right out of the gate, verse 1, Jesus tells us this is a metaphor. It's not an actual retelling. It's not an account. It's a metaphor. The kingdom of heaven will be like, and then here's the story. So you have to make those equations. Will be like, it's a metaphor. Okay? First things first. Now, verse 9. Okay, so you got the situation laid out. You've got virgins who were waiting for the bridegroom. Now, here's the thing that you may not understand unless you know the culture a little bit. Back in the day, when there was a wedding, it was a big deal. They would have a wedding feast that would last several days. And once you were in, they would close the doors and lock whatever they had to lock so that new people, wedding crashers, wouldn't come in, or even worse, they could be brigands or people that were there just to take and cause a problem and then leave, or take and cause a problem. So when they shut the doors, that's it. Nobody else is coming in, because it would have been like, you're not invited. You were never invited. You're just trying to get in here and cause a problem. So what you've got is the groom and the bride are now going to, let me see if I can rephrase this. The bridegroom is going to the wedding feast. They're going to have the wedding feast. That's what it is. So they would have a parade. Excuse me. They would have a parade, and it was always at night. It was always after the sundown, and they would, excuse me, they would have lights and lamps, and it was a big joyous occasion. They would parade to where the wedding feast was going to be. So they would pick up people, the participants along the way, who were invited. So when these virgins were waiting, it was taking the groom a lot longer to get there. And so the unwise ones didn't bring any extra oil, thinking, I don't know, Don't know what they were thinking. Maybe they're just being lazy, didn't plan ahead. Preparedness, as Brad pensively strokes his beard. Or maybe they just were super excited and were neglectful and left without enough oil. But then you have the comparison of the wise ones that did bring everything they needed, right? Now, the groom shows up and they go. Well, what happened, Brad? Well, the unwise ones had to go buy oil, right? So they weren't there. They got left out. They go to the party after the wise ones were already there. The doors are locked and they can't get in. So obviously this is a metaphor. This is on a macro level. You could easily look at this as be prepared. Get your salvation worked out with Jesus. Pray, accept him, receive him, right? If you're not at that level of basic preparedness, you're not getting in. You're just not. And then you could keep going with this. That's one cool thing about metaphors. You could say, well, in my life, am I using my time as well as I can? Am I ready for the groom to show up? Am I ready for Jesus to show up? In that, am I using my time and my talents and my gifts to affect the kingdom? Or am I just sitting like a bump on a log? There's an interesting depth there, isn't there? Now, this parable plays directly into the next parable, the parable of the tenants. Now, I love talking on this parable, but it's also one of those parables where it'll straight up smack you in the face. It really will. Because you have to put yourself into this parable. You have to go, am I the guy with 5 talents? Am I the guy with 2? Or am I the guy with 1? Now, what do I mean by that? Replace the word talents for your abilities, your gifts, what you do. What are you good at? What are you not good at? Think about those things. Like, what am I good at? The adaptive maritimer, skateboarding. He loves skateboarding. Tries to use skateboarding as a way to affect the kingdom of God. I think that's really cool. It's not something that is in my wheelhouse, so to speak, because I would just break my bones and be on the ground hoping someone would take me to a doctor. Skateboarding's not my thing, but he can communicate the gospel to people who that is their thing. That's their language. That's what they understand. And that's great. So when you think about this parable that we're getting ready to unpack, put yourself in the situation. Try to put yourself in the situation of the 5, the 2, or the 1. And now let's talk about this. Okay. First things first. Again, will be like. It's a metaphor. Verse 14, for it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. I think that word entrusted is important because it's not ours. It's not ours. We don't own the earth as much as we would like to think so. We don't own it. We're simply granted authority to manage it while we're here. I mean, you can't take it with you. It's not like the Egyptian pharaohs thinking, well, as much junk as I can stuff into this sarcophagi, then I'm taking it with me to the netherworld. No, you're not. Sorry to break it to you, bro. Not going to happen. We are entrusted with the resources God has blessed us with. And that means talents too. Like if your thing is crocheting, I know there's a lot of people here who crochet. If your thing's crocheting, God has entrusted you with that ability to use it for the kingdom. So how are you doing that? That talent. It's not just stuff we own. It's who you are, your gifts, your abilities. You are entrusted. So, for it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted them his property. Here, let me try this a different way, okay? Steve Ganink. I don't know a ton about you other than I know you make great spices. He's sent us some of his barbecue spices, and they're excellent. And so I'm going to just pop you into this story right here. Sorry, bro. Your name just shot out like, okay, here we go. So it will be like a man. Here, I'll put myself in the position. I want to be the rich guy. So it would be like Brad going on a journey who had a friend who worked with him named Steve Ganink. And Brad entrusted to Steve some money. And he gave him 5 talents, right? So pop yourself into the story as we go. Now, first things first, this entire parable hinges, I believe, on the next verse. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1. And now here it is. Each according to his ability. That is huge because you, Southern Prairie Homestead, you, Pepperley, you, Scott, are not going to be asked to do more than you are able. Number 1. And you are not expected to do more than you are able. But you are expected to do what you are able. Same thing with me. Same thing with Phoebe and Delaney and all of us. That's important. We're not expected to do more than God has given you ability. You're not. And you're not going to be held accountable if you didn't become Billy Graham, if you're not Billy Graham. Now, if you are Billy Graham, you better be Billy Graham, right? If you are thinking that God's going to somehow punish you because you weren't the world's greatest football player, whatever, then, well, that's kind of weird because most of us will never be the world's greatest football player. So are we supposed to be held accountable for that standard? No, absolutely not. But there are things that Alicia is good at that I'm not good at. And doggone it, if she's not using her talents that God has given her the ability, each according to his or her ability, then you are not doing what you were wired to do. You're not using the gifts. You're not using the talent that you have been blessed with. But you're also, again, this is really important, and I'm going to say it, this will be like the 3rd time. You're not held accountable to do stuff that you're not able. Okay? But you are able to do certain things, and that is what you will be held accountable for. Now, that said, each according to his ability. Just a little matter of quick research, a little math, just to give you an idea. 1 talent, according to the search I found, equaled about 6,000 denarius. Denarius is money. Now, 1 denarius equaled about 1 day's wage of labor, like working in the fields. So not easy, cushy, sit your butt down at a desk job, but working. So 1 talent equaled 6,000 denarius. So the servant who was entrusted, not given, entrusted with 5 talents, that equals 30,000 days. So it's literally about 82 years worth of wages, to give you an idea of the amount of money that the master was entrusting. Okay? Right? So that's a big chunk of change. And so the servants go to work. The master heads out of town. Servants go to work. We see what happens. The one with 5 puts the money to work, gets 5 more. The one with 2 puts the money to work, gets 2 more. Uses their talents. Okay? The one with 1, oh man, here's the rub. This is the person that didn't use their talents. Right? So, verse 23, this is the servant that still had 2. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. Okay? Verse 24, this is what's crazy. He who had received the 1 talent came forward saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, have what is yours. So what is that? Oh, man. Right out of the bat, makes excuses. The very first thing out of this guy's mouth is excuses. You know, I had a talent. I know that, but you know, you don't, sow pretty much anywhere, yet you still expect a return. And I know you're a hard guy, and I was afraid. So he's making excuses. Secondly, then he hurls insults at the master. You basically, look at that, reaping where you did not sow, basically saying, hey, you didn't work for it, so you don't really deserve it. I mean, unpack it that way. Where you did not sow and gathering where scattering no seed. You basically don't deserve it. So excuses, insults, clearly lazy. And let's not forget, the master is not asking more than this servant is able. That's key. Or else the master just seems like a hard jerk. But this servant is able and is not being asked to do more than they are capable of. But this servant is just going out there with the excuses, insults, and laziness. Right? Verse 25. So, but the master, verse 25. So I was afraid. I went, here's your talent. You don't deserve it anyway, but whatever. Here you go. But the master answered, you wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have scattered no seed. You ought to have invested my money with the bankers. So, at the very least, you should have put this thing in the bank and gotten me interest. You couldn't even do that. You know, I don't even think the word couldn't is the best pick. You wouldn't even do that. Now, it's pretty clear here that this is a warning. It's a call to action, I think, more than anything. It's a call to action. What are you doing with your abilities? Your time, your talent, your treasure. Yeah, the 3 T's. Time, talent, treasure. Your money, your time, and your abilities. What are you doing with it? That's directly here. It's not just cash, okay? God is going to ask you to give an account for what you were able to do. What are you going to be held accountable if you're no Billy Graham? Well, only if you were supposed to be Billy Graham. If not, then you're not. So, what are you doing with it? Now, if you go a little bit further here to verse 29, for to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have in abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. Now, that puzzled me for a long time. Excuse me. That puzzled me for a long time, but the reality is it's a simple phrase that we all know. Use it or lose it. If you have an ability, if you've been gifted and blessed with something and you don't use it, those abilities generally just kind of fade away, don't they? I mean, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And then usually people that are tenaciously after something, they get in abundance. So, for example, whatever it is that let's pick a name. Who is up? I think we should pick Pope Family Farm, because I don't know what they do. I'm assuming there's a farm involved. Pope Family Farm. So whatever it is that your abilities are, if you're not going to continue using them, honing your skills and getting better, they slip away. It's just that simple. So today, you got to ask yourself, I got to ask myself, am I using my abilities to glorify the kingdom? And I got to tell you what, this morning I was super convicted and am super convicted that there is one aspect of my life that is in decline, the slipping away, the letting it go. And that's my ability to create music. I've been doing it my whole life, but for the past probably 3 years, I just kind of hem-haw around at it, not really serious about it. And I just don't know why. To be completely honest and open and frank with you and even vulnerable, I should be making music in addition to what we're doing. But this morning, as I was reading and getting convicted, it's like, wait a minute. You have this ability and it's slipping away because you're not using it. And I prayed. I was like, well, daggone God. Okay. I'll do my best. And to quote Phoebe here, get off your butt and get busy for God. That needs to resonate in every one of our heads. It needs to resonate. And whatever it is that you do, do it for the glory of the kingdom and find ways to use it. Everybody's gifted with something. You guys know this is one of my soapboxes. I get on this soapbox a lot, and I think it's a good soapbox to get on. And that is, you are specifically made for a task that will glorify the kingdom, and nobody else in all of history is going to be able to do it exactly like you. You've been specifically blessed. You've been created, and you've been gifted. You are in a specific, mindset. There will never ever be another person like Southern Prairie Homestead or Phoebe or T. Pearson. You absolutely have a skill set and abilities that are designed to exactly do a mission that God has called you to do. Even before creation began, he knew you, and he was like, I got a job for you, and you're the only one that is going to do it exactly the way I want it done. Can other people do the job? Sure they can. But you're the one. You're specifically, uniquely made. And if you don't do it, I'll find somebody else, but you're my pick. I want you to do this. He's given us tasks to do in advance that will glorify him. So what are we waiting for? What's your thing? I don't care if it's gardening. Go garden. Share the love of God with somebody from your abundance. Garden, whatever it is. I know. I mean, what if it's a little more difficult? What if you're like an accountant? Well, find a ministry or some civic thing that's doing stuff that Christ would approve of and help them stay solvent financially. Do it. You know? Whatever it is that your talents are, go make 5 more talents. Don't forget the word entrusted. That was the very beginning. We're only entrusted with these abilities for a short time. We're entrusted with finances for a short time. Then we got to give them back. So, this morning, I hope that is resonating with you, because it is resonating loud in my head. Yep. So, we get to go see Claire this morning, so that's going to be cool. We're going to go visit her, and I miss my daughter. I miss all of my kids, but I miss Claire. I miss David and Jonathan too, obviously. It's different when it's a girl. So, we're going to say a quick prayer, and we're going to be on our way. All right? Here we go, guys. All right. Father God, thank you so much for how you've blessed us in every way, in everything. Help us not to neglect the gifts and talents you've blessed us with, and let us not be negligent. Let us one day hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into your master's joy." We love you, Jesus. Thank you so much. Amen. That's it, guys. All right. See ya. Have an awesome day. Bye.